What's up? This is actually the first video that I'm ever filming in my new house, and I don't have much moved in yet. I literally have a bed. I taped up some temporary shades just to give me some privacy. I have a coffee maker, and I have my teddy bear. So I have not officially moved over here yet, so I don't have any of my lighting or filming equipment, but I wanted to do a recap of the first episode of The Amazing Race, and I thought that since I'm not doing a makeup tutorial where you guys really have to be able to see the colors and the definition of the products and everything, that it would probably be okay if I just filmed this video on my webcam. And so I hope that this quality is okay for you guys. But I really wanted to do a recap of the first episode of The Amazing Race, and I'm going to do the second episode as well before the third episode comes out. But this past week has just been crazy. Obviously, I'm in the process of moving. I had a ton of racers staying with me for premiere week. I just launched my own graphic t-shirt line, so I actually handmade this shirt. It says, "Sorry, I can't today. I have to walk my unicorn." I have tank tops, t-shirts, and sweatshirts. My other favorite one says, "I will make better mistakes tomorrow," so I will put a link in the bottom bar below to that. I just started this Etsy shop, and I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I'm hand making every single one of the items. So if you want to check that out, that has definitely been keeping me busy along with everything else that's been going on. So this is the first time that I've really been able to sit down and film this recap of the first episode of The Amazing Race. And then, like I said, I will do episode 2 recap before the third episode comes out, and then I'll try to do it obviously like right after the episode comes out. I'll do that recap, but this one was just a little bit crazy. If you guys have not seen it yet, then this will have spoilers, so I'm just throwing that out there. If you haven't seen it yet, you should probably watch that and then come back and watch this video. Those of you who have never seen The Amazing Race or don't know exactly what the premise is, it takes 11 teams of 2 around the world to race for $1 million. And you have lots of different tasks and challenges, and even things that don't seem like challenges, like booking your own flight to get from point A to point B, and then someone else is able to get on standby on a flight that leaves sooner than you. Even things like that that aren't actually the challenges, like the roadblocks or detours, really play into the race. So it really is a race around the world, and it was definitely one of hands down the best experiences of my entire life. I just want to thank everyone over at The Amazing Race for giving me this opportunity. Like, it was absolutely one of the best experiences of my entire life. I think the hardest thing for this season, though, it's a cast of all social media people. So we are all kind of tied together with the bond that we are all either YouTubers or Viners or something that has to do in the online field. And then some of us have partners. Like, I took my dad. He's obviously not a social media person. He's a doctor. So we also have kind of more of, I guess, the normal style cast with people like that. So I think one of the toughest parts was knowing that we were going to be gone for about a month, and that we would not have any sort of cell phone, computer, like nothing like that. We could not talk to you guys. We could not talk to our families. And I think that was probably the toughest part for a lot of us. I know that I talk to my mom on the phone every single day, at least one time, but most of the time it is actually like 2 or 3 or 4 times a day. So we have a very close relationship, and just knowing that I wasn't going to be able to talk to her or either of my sisters was pretty difficult. And just mentally preparing for that, I thought like, oh, it'll be fine. I won't even realize. I swear I had phantom vibrations in like my pants pockets. I would be sitting there and I would think I would get a text, and I would go to look for my phone and my phone wouldn't be there. And then it was just like a weird experience. So I think just mentally knowing that I wasn't going to be able to talk to my mom or my family or friends or you guys for a month, I kind of had to mentally prepare myself for that. I gave Elle the passwords to everything so that she could update for you guys. She actually edited a video that I filmed the morning I was leaving for the race that was what's in my Amazing Race backpack. I will link that in the bottom bar below. Elle, thank you. She edited that for me and then uploaded it while I was gone. She was also kind of keeping Twitter updated on whatever she knew, but they weren't telling, you know, family that much. They would just call and say they're okay or something like that. And so my family had no idea what was going on. They didn't know where we were. They didn't know anything. And you'll hear me sometimes on the episodes, or I know it was already in one of the behind the scenes clips over on the Amazing Race YouTube page. They upload so many extra videos and stuff. So if you haven't seen that, definitely go check that out because there are some really funny videos. But I know in one of those videos already, it has me telling my dad, like, oh, I can't wait to tell mom about this. And that was, I think, the first day. So it was really interesting that we didn't have our phones to connect with our friends and family and you guys. So before I fall asleep at night, I always put on a book. And so it was weird trying to get myself to fall asleep without a book. I also will play Candy Crush or Panda Pop or one of those games kind of just like when I wake up to kind of jumpstart my day. I don't like to wake up and just roll out of bed and immediately get going. I like to have like 5 minutes of just like on my phone. I'll play a little game. I'll check Instagram and everything. And so it was weird how my wake up and go to sleep schedule was so off because I didn't have my phone, obviously, to like read me to sleep. Right now, I'm actually reading a really good book. It's called The Siren by Kiera Cass, and by reading, I mean listening to. So Kiera Cass is the person that wrote The Selection, The Elite, The Air, and so I love all of her books, and this is a brand new one that just recently came out. It's really, really good. I just listen on Audible, so you can download the Audible app, and if you go to audible.com/Blair, I actually have friends that work over at Audible, and they have given me a little coupon code to give any of my friends or you guys. You can go to audible.com/Blair and get your first audiobook for free. I would definitely recommend The Siren because I really am enjoying this book, but you can get obviously any book that you'd like. So I, just fall asleep listening to it, and it was so weird not having this to put me to sleep. It was actually like I realized I'm not only dependent upon technology to talk to you guys and for work and everything, but so many different aspects of my life. I use my phone or my laptop or something like that. So it was interesting not having that. That was like really tough. But I guess the first episode starts off and you see all of us are just at our house and our little phones that they gave us as selfie cams go off. So basically, they had told us that they were giving us these phones just so that we could take some behind the scenes pictures and videos, but that all sort of functionality had been turned off on it. We weren't able to like get on the internet or text or call anyone. Literally all we could do with these phones was take selfies and videos. So we all think that that's what it's for and that we're at our house just, filming some B-roll packing and, some people are saying goodbye to their families and just getting ready to go for the race. And this phone that they gave us starts ringing. I was confused actually. At first I thought it was one of like the cameraman or audio guy's phones or something like that. And then we realized that it is actually the phone that they gave us that isn't supposed to work. It worked, and we got a video message from Phil saying, the race is starting now, meet me in Mexico City. And that was so weird for us because every other season you line up and Phil says go and there's an actual start line. This was like we weren't sure if other people were going to get on flights that went sooner to Mexico City and how we were supposed to do this, so we just booked it and we were like, we're gonna get there as soon as we can. All the teams are there and we are ready to run out to the cabs at the same time, so we did have kind of that fair, even ground starting line. So we all race out to the cabs, and what you don't see is actually that my dad and I are the second ones into a cab. So we should have been, if you think that that makes sense, the second ones to the Monument of the Revolution. Well, we somehow got into a cab that decided to take us around to the back. So we were the only team that enters from the back of the monument, and we had to like go run up and over this big hill to get to Phil, and then that rhymed. And I asked the teams afterwards, I was like, did anyone else's cab take them like to the back of the entrance? And they were like, no, they dropped us off. We got out of the cab, we ran, Phil was right there. I was like, Dad and I were huffing and puffing uphill from the opposite direction. So we're actually 9th place to get to Phil to get our clue. So, but we didn't know what place we were in. You know, we couldn't really see many of the other teams except the ones that were standing right there at the same time with us. So that was interesting, and one of the ways that you see the cabs really play a part. I think if either my dad or I had known Spanish, we would have been able to speak to the cab driver and told him, you know, we're in a race, we need to go fast, like take us the quickest way, take us to the front entrance, you know, but we didn't know Spanish, so we took what we could get, and we still didn't get there last, so that was nice. And it was a detour, and we had our first option. We either had to pick Mariachi Madness or Great Bulls of Fire. We picked Great Bulls of Fire. It seemed like it was maybe going to be closer, and honestly, we read that clue out loud probably 3 times and did not even process what it was. Like, I was reading it out loud, and I was like, which one do you want to do? And my dad was like, wait, I don't know what you just said. And I was like, I don't either. Wait, let me read it again. You were not processing. Everyone was super crazy, just running around. I think this was at like 11:30 p.m. in the middle of Mexico City that we were just like running around trying to figure out where we wanted to go. And it said that you had to make your way there on foot. So we weren't allowed to take a car or a cab or a bike or, you know, have someone carry us there, which I probably would have asked. But everyone got lost. This is one of my favorite editing moments in the show for the first episode, where they show all of the lights kind of swirling around us and all of us are lost, and you have the Spanish speaking over us and no one knows where they're going, because I'm pretty sure every single team got lost going to their detour. So we ended up picking Great Bulls of Fire. We got lost like 3 or 4 times going there. My dad finally found our way there. And we get there, and it's at the top of a parking garage that's like 9 or 10 stories up. Turns out some of the other racers actually ran those stairs. I know Bernie and Ashley and Marty and Hagen ran up the stairs 9 or 10 flights to get to the top, when it was right next to an elevator that my dad saw on the top of it had an amazing race flag marked. So he was like, okay, you know, we go in the elevator. We got there, and Bernie and Ashley, Marty and Hagen, and Tyler and Corey were already there. And then we got there, and then after us, the models and Cam and Darius showed up. So there were 6 of us that picked this detour, 5 that picked Mariachi Madness. All 5 teams that picked Mariachi Madness finished their detour before even the first person from Great Bulls of Fire finished there. So obviously we picked the longer detour of the 2. And I've actually been getting a lot of questions from people that are asking, like, do you think it's unfair how one of the detours is clearly so much longer than the other one? And that's part of the race. That's like literally the name of the game. You have to pick. It's a detour. You have to decide which one you want to do, and you have to decide which one you think is going to be faster for you and your teammate, because there might be something that's super physical that would have been faster for Brody and Kurt, but not faster for my dad and I to do, because it would have been really difficult. So all in all, I think that, you know, we probably would have been faster at Mariachi Madness, but we wouldn't have had the experience of doing this detour together. This one was really, really amazing. We got to see the fireworks go off, and we left in 4th, and we arrived there 4th. So we didn't have any teams pass us, but we also didn't pass any teams. And so that was a really fun experience. And actually, we were watching the fireworks go off, and they were like, okay, here's your clue, you know, you can go. And we stood there for about another, I'd say like 60 to 120 seconds just watching the fireworks, because they were so gorgeous. And we were like, we don't know when the next time we're going to be in the middle of Mexico City shooting off fireworks that we just made. Like, that's probably never going to happen again. So we stood there for a little while, and then we were like, okay, we're in a race, gotta go. We run down, and we have to make our way to these pyramids, and when we get there, we are actually the last team that grabs the 7:40 time slot. The other teams either have grabbed the 7:30, 7:40, and then the teams after us get 7:50. So we're in the second group, and this was at like, I'd say probably 1:30 in the morning that we got there, and so we have an overnight hold until 7:40 the next morning when we're released to do the roadblock. So they didn't show this. I think they have some behind the scenes over on their page of this, but they didn't show it on the episode, I think just because they had so much footage they had to edit together. But we all got to sleep outside together. So you have all of the racers sleeping outside. It was freezing cold. I had every article of clothing that I had with me layered onto my body, and I was just curled up into a tiny little ball at the bottom of my sleeping bag. People said they couldn't even tell if there was anyone like in my sleeping bag because I was just so like tiny in the bottom trying to stay warm. And I don't think many people got a lot of sleep that night. Everyone was still trying to get to know each other and talking and stuff, and it was so cold. And then the next morning you get up and there aren't showers or anything like that, so it was just like baby wipe time. And that was something on the race that I kind of assumed anywhere that they put us for overnight would probably have like showers or something. I mean, I've seen most of the other seasons and I've seen that they haven't, but I just thought maybe they didn't show that on the episode, but they actually like had somewhere that they could go. No, we did not have that. So that was kind of a little bit of an eye-opener for us with the living conditions we were going to be having. So then we get to the roadblock and it says who wants to pick up the pieces, and only one of us gets to do the roadblock, and we have to choose before we know what it is. The only sentence we have is who wants to pick up the pieces. So we decided to kind of look around and evaluate our surroundings, see if we could figure out anything about the challenge. And we saw a lot of really big like rocks and boulders and stuff. And we kind of had decided beforehand that if it was a puzzle challenge, I was going to do it. So we couldn't decide if it was puzzle pieces or if it was going to kind of be a little bit of one of those Amazing Race tricks where you think it's going to be a puzzle and then you get there and it's like picking up these huge boulders. And I have the upper body strength of a kitten, so I was like, if this is going to be something that's like picking up something heavy, my dad needs to do it. So we decided that my dad was going to do it. Of course, it turns out to be a puzzle. The tricky part about this roadblock is that it said dig up 13 pieces and construct your puzzle. Well, tons of the racers, my dad included, dug up 13 pieces, ready to go. Then it said you had to look for or listen for the drums to find the place that you were supposed to put your pieces together. And so most of the racers found their 13 pieces and went looking for the drums. Well, what we didn't know was that the pieces, actually, there were way more than 13. There were a lot of duplicates and there were different color masks that you had to solve. So you had to get the right 13 pieces, but that didn't mean that you weren't digging up like 30 or something like that to get those right 13. But my dad dug up the 13 pieces and goes looking for the drums. He didn't hear any drums in the cave, so he walks upstairs and comes back out into the big opening and is running around looking for these drums and somehow drops his puzzle pieces. Part of the clue said you have to keep your puzzle pieces with you at all times. So you couldn't be solving the puzzle and realize that you have to go back and find another piece and just run back. You had to actually dismantle your like puzzle that you just created, put it back in the little baggie and run with that. So my dad was scared that if he didn't get those exact 13 pieces back, that we would get a penalty for him not keeping his pieces with him. He's sitting there and trying to find these puzzle pieces. Meanwhile, tons of the other racers are coming up looking for the drums. They quickly realize that they're not at the top and they run back down, find the drums that are in the cave. But my dad can't run back down yet because he needs his 13 pieces, which in the end didn't even turn out to be some of the pieces that he needed, which was the really sad part. But we're all standing up there. We're waiting for our partners to come out. One by one, they're coming out, and it's not my dad. And I realized halfway through, my dad was still up looking for his pieces. He wasn't even down in the cave solving the puzzle yet. So I was getting a little bit just worried that this might be the end of it for us, but I never thought that he was going to give up at all. I even asked him, would you have taken the penalty? And he was like, absolutely not. So it was just a matter of getting all of his pieces and getting back down into the cave, and then he realizes that the pieces don't actually fit together, that he has to go find more pieces. So he spent all of this time looking for pieces that he didn't even need. So at this point, I think it's just Aaron, Sherry, and my dad left down in the cave. Aaron comes out first. Oh, and another thing that's really funny that happened that they didn't show on camera. Sorry, Teddy, did I scare you? Another thing that's really funny that happened that they didn't show is there was a little house kind of a ways off that when my dad was looking for the drums, he actually walked into this random person's house. It had nothing to do with where we were, but he just stumbled into this random person's house and is looking for the drums, and someone's like, no, we're not supposed to be here. So he leaves, and then he wasn't sure if that's where he dropped any of his puzzle pieces, so he had to go back and like look in this random person's just living room for his puzzle pieces, which I think was kind of funny because he just like in the middle of Mexico City wandered into someone's house. But he goes back down, he's in the cave. We're not sure exactly who's gonna come up first. Aaron comes up, and so Aaron and Jocelyn leave. Then it's between Sherry and Cole and me and my dad, and we know that one of us are probably going to be last unless someone else's cab is just horrible and lost and everything. And so Sherry comes up, Sherry and Cole, you know, they grab their bags, they're running, and then my dad comes up, probably not even, I'd say it was within 3 minutes. It felt like probably 3 minutes, but it might have even been only about 60 seconds, and my dad is up. So we were only about, at most, I would say 3 minutes behind Cole and Sherry when we got in our cab, and Cole and Sherry ended up passing Aaron and Jocelyn. That's how close they were and how close we were. So we could have actually probably passed Aaron and Jocelyn and maybe Cole and Sherry as well, had we had a great taxi driver. So my dad comes up and I'm like, you did great, you know, like we gotta go though, like come on. And we get in our cab, and we were that close to the other teams, we end up getting lost. We saw all of Mexico City in our cab. We had a very, very long cab drive around Mexico City. Our driver kept getting out of the car and asking random people for directions, didn't know where to go. We weren't able to switch our cabs, so we just had to stay with him and just hope that, you know, we were going to get there, and maybe other teams were having this trouble as well. Turns out they weren't having this trouble, that we arrived around 40 minutes after Cole and Sherry and Aaron and Jocelyn, when we left probably, like I said, within 3 minutes of them. So that just goes to show how the cabs are a very big part of the race and how you really have to pick your cab right. But we were the last team out, so we didn't get to pick our cab because it was the last cab there. So that was something that was kind of interesting. And we get up to the mat, and Phil says to us, you know, you are the last team to arrive. And I think there's only ever been one other non-elimination leg in the first, or non-elimination in the first leg of the race. I think in the other races there has only been that one time. Most of the time they knock off one of the teams immediately. Obviously they're traveling these teams all the way around the world, and there's so much footage to take when you have the 11 teams. It makes sense that you start knocking them down so you have time to tell the stories of the other racers and everything. So we just knew that we were last, and we knew that it was over, and we had decided in the car, I was like, I'm not gonna cry. Like, this is, you know, this has been an amazing experience already for us. We never would have been able to come to Mexico City and do something like this. So I was like, I'm not gonna cry. And Phil, in the episode, it looks like he just tells us, you know, but it's a non-elimination leg. No, he held that for a little while and was kind of like, you know, he told us we were the last to arrive, and he was like, but how has this experience been for you so far? So we're like, well, we're definitely gone, because he's asking us, you know, how it's been. Like, it wasn't even a thought in my mind it could have been a non-elimination. And then he tells us, but you're gonna have to keep racing because it is a non-elimination leg. And I just fell to the ground. Then I started crying. My dad started crying. It was something that we really just weren't ready to finish the race. Like, we wanted to keep going. And I said something along the lines of, you know, I don't know when the next time I'm going to be able, if ever, to have an experience like this with my dad. Obviously, a lot of people were like, your dad's not that old. Like, he's not going to kick the bucket overnight. Like, you're going to have more experiences with him. It wasn't that I wasn't going to have more experiences. I didn't want our race experience together to be over. And so that was one of the reasons that I was really emotional. And then I realized I've got to get rid of a lot of this stuff. So in my bag, I emptied out probably half of the things after the first leg, because I knew we also had a speed bump going into the second leg, and we were going to have a whole lot of time to catch up. I knew that we were going to have a speed bump in the second leg, which is basically an extra task that you have to do as a penalty for coming in last in the final leg if it's a non-elimination leg. So you're either eliminated or you're kept, but you have a speed bump, so it's hard for you to stay in the race. A lot of times, if someone has a speed bump, they end up going home in that next episode. So that brings us to episode 2. So I'm going to film a recap of episode 2 next, and that will be up a little bit later, probably in a couple days. So make sure you are subscribed subscribe to this YouTube channel and check back for that. And I will talk to you guys later. I really hope that you are enjoying the race. Make sure you check out all the links in the bottom bar below, and I will talk to you later. Bye.